Welcome to Victory Quilts. I'm Eleanor Burns. In this series, I've been telling the story about the 1940s decade through quilt blocks. Well, we're making our last two blocks today. First, I'll show you the Bride's Bouquet with diamonds and Y seams. And then I'll finish with Brave World. It's made with strips. 2 patches are made at a time, and it's a fun block to do. During World War II, many women arranged wartime weddings within a few days to accommodate the future husband coming home on a short leave. Well, weddings took place with family members, often donating small amounts of rationed items as sugar, flour, and eggs, so the bride could bake the wedding cake. Gardens were raided for flowers, and relatives would beautify the private home or the yard for the special occasion. Now, this is the Bride's Bouquet. It's also known as nosegay. The choice of fabric just makes it bright and fun-loving, just as a marriage should be. Well, there are 2 different reds used in the handle, but they're similar values, so they blend together nicely. And then the diamond flowers and the squares are all scrappy. You know, those large-scale fabrics are 40 feed sacks with a coarse texture. And then there are some other scraps from the 1930s. They're smaller scale, they're finer fabrics. The quilting stitches are long, but it's in great condition. The quilter used plain feed sacks on the back and then the binding as well. It's very soft. You know, I think it's a happy quilt, just for the occasion. Now, this quilt was made a little earlier, probably in the 1930s because of the green handle on the bouquet. The flowers, the diamonds, are small-scale prints, and then there's a beautiful yellow sun around the diamonds. Well, what's unique about this quilt is the hand quilting in the solid squares. It's a musical instrument. It's very fine work. This quilter was excellent at quilting. Well, usually there was no time for the bride to get a special dress, nor could they afford the ration clothing coupons needed for a wedding dress. Ida Mary Decala was fortunate enough to wear a wedding dress when she married her sweetheart, Ken Bouchard, on June 9th, 1946. Well, Ken is very handsome in his Navy uniform. You know, it was quite usual for men in the military to marry in their uniform, either their dress or every day. Ida May kept a diary and recorded the day she met Ken. She knew that very day that she would marry him. This is what she wrote on June 9th in her diary, our wedding day. It was a beautiful day. I'm very happy. I'd do it all over again for this day. Well, Bride's Bouquet is just such a beautiful, sentimental block. Let's get started. I wanted to show you a graph of the marriages in the 1940s. You can see it started right here in 1940. It just went up a little bit in 42. But look how it peaked in 1945 whenever all of the soldiers came home. And then it just dropped again around 1949, and then it was flat through the 50s. Interesting. A lot of marriages in 1945. Well, let's take a close look at the block. You know, these are actually little log cabin blocks. You start off like a log cabin, 5 of them with yellow centers, and then there are a total of 6 diamonds, 3 red and 3 blue, and then the handle is just this nice green with background all around. Well, let's start with the log cabin blocks, just the center of the log cabin. The center strip comes from a 2-inch wide strip. It's 11 inches long. The background is 2 3/4 by 11 inches. Just sew them together lengthwise, press that seam towards the yellow, and then cut these into 5 2-inch sections. 5 2-inch sections. That's pretty easy. Hopefully you have all done log cabin. I'm just going to cut 2 of them just so I can show you. And then they go onto this wider background strip. It's actually 2 3/4 by 22 inches. And all you're going to do is just assembly line sew right down along there, and then in between each one cut. Well, it's just a miracle because look what I have already completed. I wanted to go on and show you the diamonds. So let's just pick these up and move them over. You sew diamonds together in pairs. Now the diamonds come from 3-inch by 8-inch pieces, and I paired them up with the red and the blue, red and the blue, red and the blue, so they would always alternate. Okay, you just take and you flip them right sides together, and then you just sew right down along there. Well, I did that sewing too. Now, the diamonds are cut from templates. You can do a template like this and just place the template so the edge is along the raw edge of the pear. But I also have a template that's out of acrylic. I just centered it right on there, and I'm just going to put it right on and cut one side. That's actually excess. I want to just turn it around so that I can cut the second side. This sure seems easy to me. I love cutting with a template. And that's what it looks like when you open it up. Now I want to show you a little trick. We have to insert that little log cabin into this diamond. So I found out that if you take your diamond and you open it up, okay, you come to a seam. We've been assembly line sewing, so then if we just keep on pulling, those stitches pop out right there. And once they line up in a straight line, let me get that all lined up. If you open that up exactly like that, once you've opened it, your 1/4 of an inch is exposed. So it makes it really easy to do. So now I'm going to just take my little log cabin block and put a dot 1/4 inch in. This is the same thing we did on signal light. Put a pin right through the dot, and now place this pin right here where you opened up your stitches. Kind of tuck it in there, push it in tight, so you've got it all lined up. And that's all we have to do. We've got a little tip hanging right down on the bottom. That's going to be easy to just sew right along there. Okay, drop that needle right on the dot. Drop your presser foot and just sew right out to the end. Let me line these up on the ends. Cut your stitches and let's check and see. Okay, there's the dot right there. The stitches start right there. And to finish it, all we have to do is to swing it around to the second side of the diamond, get it all lined up, got that tip hanging out in the end. This time we're going to turn it over and start 1/4 inch and stitch down this side. Oh my gosh, we are so close to being done with this. This is great. Actually, I have really enjoyed doing the Bride's Bouquet. I think it's a fun block to do. Now, when we open it up, perfect, that's exactly right. See how that little log cabin center fits right into those diamonds. Looking good. Now, I've got the other ones, 2 other sets ready to go. The seams are already pressed away from the log cabin center and flat like this. So, I'm going to get this pressed up and I'll show you how to finish. I laid out my 3 pairs of diamonds with that yellow square in it, and now I have 2 of those left. Once we get the whole inside sewn together, we're going to inset these at the very last step. But I just wanted to show you what it looked like. We do have the handle right down here, and this is what the handle looks like. Let me show you how you cut it, because we have the background and the handle just about the same. The handle is 3 inches wide by 10.5 inches long. It's a pair of fabric, and the pear is already wrong sides together. Find the 45-degree line on the ruler, put it right in the very end, and just cut off that corner. Get rid of it. And then just angle your ruler from corner to corner, cut it off. This is extra. Take this and get rid of it. And then to take this piece and finish it off, all you need to do is flip the pear right sides together and sew right along there. Well, when you open it up, you've got a little bit of a tip right at the top. You've got to cut off. And down at the bottom, oh, it would be so helpful if we just went and cut off about 1/4 of an inch. And that way it has a nice blunt end. Oh, there's just a smidgen. We'll get rid of all of it. And I'll show you how to put that right in place in just a second. Well, we have the background, which is a little larger. I like to make my blocks oversized so I can square them up to 12.5 inches. This piece is 3 1/4 inches by 10 3/4. I added a 1/4 of an inch on both sides. Once again, find your 45-degree angle, line it up across the top, angle your ruler into the corner, cut off your corner, get rid of it, and then angle your ruler again from up at this point down to the opposite end. Trim that off, and you'll see these are going to fit right in here. One piece there and one piece there. It's looking like it's almost done. Now, let's just go back up here. We want to take and go straight down. So let's flip this like this, flip this like this, and this is our seam. And everyone is going to lock together. I think I'm the champion of locking together. Well, right up here at the top, we want to start 1/4 inch down. So just drop your needle in and sew. Right here, the seams go in opposite directions, so you just get them all lined up opposite, one going up, one going down. Hold that down with your stiletto and stitch across there. And then pick up the other pair and butt it right behind. Seams going up here, underneath it's going down. Really strange looking pieces, but it's getting to be a lot of fun. And then stop 1/4 inch from the end again. I'm into eyeballing that 1/4 of an inch seam right now. You can surely mark it if you would like. And then all you have to do is just flip it and go the opposite direction. See, that's looking really good right in there. Flip it, and this time we're going to do that swirling. I'm into swirling the centers. So to make the center swirl, you push the top seam up and the underneath seam down and just stitch right along there. Well, let me tell you about Connie and Jim. The whole time that Jim was overseas, he thought about going home to Connie and asking her to marry him. Well, he came back to the States. He said, this is the day, and he showed up at Connie's house. Well, she didn't know he was coming. It was a complete surprise. She was cleaning all day. She looked a little ragged and a little dirty, and wouldn't you know it, when Jim knocked on the door, she was holding her sister's baby. His heart probably just dropped. But anyhow, he found out it was her sister's baby. He said, will you marry me? She said, yes. There was only one problem. She was already engaged. So as soon as she worked that out, they got married and lived happily ever after for 40 years. That's a great story. Okay, so you can see how the center lays really nice. It's going to go, all of these are going to get inset right in there. And let me show you what it looks like on the 6-inch block. Okay, I have the 6.5 inch fussy cut ruler. I placed it, you can see how they're all sitting out around the outside edge. So all I have to do is just trim off 2 sides, swing it around, and trim 2 more sides. Get rid of all of this, and the block is perfect. Now I'm on to Brave World. The Farm Journal named this block Brave World in 1945. It's great because the squares come from strips and the triangles come from rectangles. Well, it's also been called Spinner by Nancy Page. That's a great name for it. You know, times did change after the war. The men did return to a brave new world. Well, we're just going to be brave. Jump right into this block. Well, this is the color of the squares. It's a strip. It's 3.5 inches wide, and the background is 4.5 inches wide. They're both 15 inches long. Just sew the two strips together and press the seam towards the dark, towards the squares. Next, this is cut into 3.5-inch segments. I'm just going to use this ruler. It goes so quickly. So you line up 0 right along the bottom edge. I have the 0 vertical line a little to the right, so I can just put my cutter right in at 0 and just trim off that edge. Now you cut cross at 3.5 inches. You have to remember your math, and I'll tell you, I'm just going to do 2 cuts right now so that I have 2 that have been cut at 3.5 inches. You need 2 more. Now take these 2 pieces and turn them so they look like a 4-patch, but they don't have to match in the middle. That's the best part. I mean, really, who wants to match all the time? There's just a great big old space in there. So line them up on the outside edges, still use your 1/4 inch seam, and just sew right down along there. Now, keep your stiletto so that whenever you go over this seam, you can hold it down flat and it's not going to flip on you. The flatter it is right now, the better it's going to be. Now we're just going to take this patch and fold it in half, match up the edges. So we have the fold right here so that we can press seams in opposite directions. Just take your scissors and snip. Just do a snip right up to the stitches. Now we can just go ahead and press in opposite directions. This is just an unbelievably fun block to do. From the wrong side, go in on one seam, press it in one direction, off of that square, and then the other. So that when you look at the back side, you see how they split right in the middle. This is perfect. We need the rectangle fabric. Now this is going to become our triangles. This is pretty amazing. So take a 6.5 by 7.5 inch rectangle and place this piece right sides together to it. Now we're doing good. A 9.5 inch square up ruler works best for the next step. Take the diagonal line and just line it right along that left edge. And when you place it, you want to place the edge of the ruler right where that seam crosses. So let's just mark it right down through there, right across that point, and down the other side. Now take your patch, turn it completely around, and put your ruler back down the same way. Diagonal line down that left side. Oops, got to move that up there so the edge of the ruler just touches. When we are done, we are actually going to have 2 out of the 4 patches completed. So this is one set. You're going to do exactly the same thing with another set. And now start sewing right in the middle of the side. Okay, drop your presser foot. Hold the stitches down right here, sew on the line, and then when you get down to the bottom, just turn it around and sew on the second line. Pretty amazing. Now remember, I taught you on one of the other blocks to start sewing in the middle of the side instead of the ends, so your machine doesn't eat those corners. Now, perfect. All we have to do now, and we are going to be done, is to just cut this block right down through the middle. You have 2 of them. Open it up, and the magic begins. There's your patch. Now, press the seam towards the dark, And then for the final squaring up, the 6.5-inch fussy cut ruler is just a great ruler to use. You know, you might not even need to square it up. So let me just put this one here and I'll just show you that spinner. Let's put it like this, and these two have already been trimmed up. They're looking much better, like this and like that. And that's how the block looks. You know, women have given up their jobs to the returning men, but they had tasted independence. You've tasted easy ways to quilt, so go and get your blocks done. The bride's bouquet is such a romantic pattern. Well, I have another one for the newlywed couple, the Romance Rose. It's made of 3 single wedding ring blocks, and then the 3 blocks are surrounded by triangles of different sizes. The crowning touch are those borders. Oh, they are made out of 3 different fabrics and set together in the corners with more of the same piecing as in the single wedding ring. The best thing is that it's so easy, you'll be making one for every married couple that you know. Well, the pieces are made from half square triangles, and you actually start out with 6-inch squares. You need to have a pink and a red, 2 sets of these for every block that you make. So you just place them right sides together, you'll remember. And then you just draw diagonal lines, draw an X, and then just sew 1/4 inch on both sides of those diagonal lines. Take your ruler, and since they're 6-inch squares, you're actually just going to place the 3-inch line in the outside edge, cut it in half, and then turn around, place the 3-inch line along here, cut it in half again. Don't break it apart until you've cut on those X's. So you actually have a total of these half square triangles. We're going to square these up to 2.5 inches, and I'm going to use my 6-inch triangle square up ruler. Just place the 2.5-inch line right on the stitches line, right on the stitching line. Just trim off that excess. Take the block, turn it over to the dark side, and press towards the dark. Well, this is going so fast. And then the last thing you want to do is just cut off those tips. Take everything and get rid of them. Now, you work in quarters. You need to lay them out so they look like this. You're just going to kind of think of a flying geese. You have 4 to make 1/4. Just flip them right sides together. Sew right down along there. Open them up and go across the other way. So here are the 4 quarters you make for the block. The second piece that you need, the second unit, is a set of strips. Let me slide this out of the way. Now these are 2.5-inch strips. They're 11 inches long, and if you take your shape cut, that's the easiest way for cutting them into 2.5-inch sections. Just start right here on the 0, straighten that edge, put your cutter in every 2.5 inches. Ooh, I am going fast because I already marked off those 2.5-inch strips. So you have 4 of those, and the last unit you need to finish a block is a 2.5-inch square. So let's just start. Put the 2.5-inch square right in the middle. Take these pieces and build right from the center. This is good. And then just take these, lay them around in the 4 corners. Just rotate them around. So beautiful. You know, this is actually a traditional block, so just sew those together. Well, once you have the whole center of the block set together, I've got to get that out of the way. Then take your 3 blocks that you made, and these go on point at the top, and this one is going to fit right in this spot. Let's make some room so we can really see. And then the rest is just filled in with triangles. Here we have an 8.5-inch square cut on one diagonal, and that's going to go right up at the top here and over here. And then I need to have 2 15.5-inch squares. this triangle is going to go in this corner like this, and the second one right here. And then all we need is one more large square cut into 4s, and all we need is that one triangle to add around the outside edge. Well, add your borders and you are done. So no matter what your romantic occasion is, make it special.